Well, hello everyone. I'm Zana and thrilled to be here in Noosa Arts Theatre with Mr. David Williamson, Australia's most popular and widely performed playwright. And it's a little gem of a theatre, Queensland's Sunshine Coast, a theatre of which you, David, are patron. Thanks for coming along to have a chat.
It's a pleasure, Zana.
Don's Party was your play about an election night party. It was a real hit in 1976 and it was eventually performed all around the world. And then it became an award-winning film. Among a tranche of film industry awards in 1977, Don's Party won for you Best Screenplay. Can you share some of the highlights of that?
Well, Don's Party was a very accurate reflection of the parties of the time. Which doesn't say much for Australian manners or male behaviour. But it is a satire. Again, it's a satire of very bad behaviour in suburbia. It's a comedy, but I think it accurately reflects the attitudes of the time. Hopefully we've moved on a little from from some of those, but I thought it'd never be staged because it has bad language, it has bad behaviour, very accurate, but I thought this is never going to be staged, but I'm going to be truthful, I'm going to write it as I have experienced it. And lo and behold, within a couple of years, the censorship laws changed and it was on stage.
Fantastic. And then you followed up that success with The Club, which also began life on stage before transforming into a film in 1980, directed by Bruce Beresford. And The Club gave us, as the audience, a fascinating look behind the locker room doors of Australian rules football. And in the play, the identity of the sports club was quite generic. It could have been any AFL club. Whereas in the film, you took over Collingwood Football Club, and you took all the action out into the stadium. That must have been both quite challenging and exciting. So what made this film, in your words, as you once said, one of the best made from your work?
Well, I think it helps to have a very good director like Bruce Beresford for a start, and he took it seriously. He said, this is a play about sport. I'm going to have the sport on screen and I'm going to have it played well. So he took the two young stars, Harold Hopkins and John Howard at the time, and they trained with Collingwood for 6 weeks. John Howard got so good that Tommy Hafey, the coach, offered him a place in the seconds, and he said, you could make it to the firsts, but John stuck with acting. But those scenes were very well done. But the play was essentially not so much about Australian rules, it was about politics in general. It's about manoeuvring, backstabbing, the quest for power, the quest for glory, enduring themes which I think permeate the film and which make it not just a film about sport.
Perhaps it's hard for many Australians to realise these days, but 50 years ago, we were more used to hearing English and American actors and accents on our stage and screen than Australians. Your productions burst onto the scene with their brash Aussie characters revealing our way of life like never before. In fact, there were so many productions in the 1970s and 80s, it got its own name and came to be called the Australian New Wave, a term that's referred to both in the theatre and in film. And you, David, appeared to surf the New Wave very successfully. What do you think of the New Wave now?
Well, it's hard for young people to realise how locked out of storytelling Australian writers were. There were very few Australian plays on stage, one every 10 years maybe. There was no film industry to speak of. There was a glimmer of television, a few cop shows, but basically Australians never saw their own stories told, their own accents they never heard. It was all English theatre with a little bit of European and a little bit of American. And the film industry, if there was a film shot in Australia, it was shot by like some of the 17th Doll American actors playing Australian leads. So it was a breakthrough, and it was a lot of anger that we couldn't tell our own stories on stage. So when Betty Birstall came back and opened a theatre dedicated to finding new writing, I think that started the explosion. Betty said, look, if you don't look for new writing, it'll never appear. And no one was looking for it.
So David, you now appear to be surfing your very own new wave. You're still fearless in exploring social issues, analysing the ordinary dramas of everyday life, all of which create compelling productions that people absolutely love. And today we've just covered a small part of your remarkable career. David Williamson, AO, it's been absolutely fascinating discussing your work that's shown us as Australians more about who we are and what we can be. On behalf of all the film and theatre lovers watching, we can't thank you enough.
Thank you very much, Zana. That's very nice of you.
Best wishes with your new productions.
Thanks a lot.